we really want to get into is nuance and detail, and sometimes how men tend to struggle with being able to relay nuance in a way that doesn't shut women down. And a lot of times women feeling like nuance and additional details that may veer away from the core issue are men deflecting or manipulating or trying to just prove themselves right. And a lot of times it's necessary information for us to process as well. We'll get deeper into that.
My nigga, everything is love. Put that on anything I love. Yeah.
Peace, beloved.
All right. How you feel?
Hot. I'm combusting.
So hot, cycle, fasting.
Water fast. We have to be very clear when we say we're fasting. We are water fasting. That's like the epitome of what a fast is. Water fasting or dry fasting.
This is my dinner, y'all. All right, we got maple syrup, reverse osmosis water, some herbs, sage, some thyme, some mint.
And it's just, it is day one. I'm not going to say just. It's day one. It's a beautiful day. It's a glorious day. Like, I'm excited to not eat food. I'm excited to not eat food. I'm excited to drink water as my food. I'm excited to
drink love and dedication to our craft as our food.
Yep. I'm excited to find ways to be excited about not eating food.
I'm hungry. They like, nigga, fuck all that.
Man, listen.
Nah, it is what it is. We did this last year. We did the advanced one last year for our parasite cleanse, and we ended up doing, I think, 6-7 days anyway. We were supposed to do like 3 or 4. So we've been here before.
Yeah, we have.
And we'll get through it.
Yeah, we will.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
You can introduce.
Welcome back to another episode of God It's Me Again. I am Candyss Love.
It's your boy, Brickcitibuddha.
It's your boy. It's your boing boing. Okay.
Oh, yeah, I didn't even tell you what we talking about.
No, what are we talking about?
All right, well, you know they love when we talk about when we argue.
Okay.
You remember our last discrepancy?
I don't.
You don't? I'll give you a clue. It's a 3-letter. It was about a 3-letter word.
6.
No. And this 3-letter word represents an action and a thing at the same time. The action of the thing at the same time.
What? A 3-letter word?
Mm-hmm. We live in Houston. Summertime is on the way.
Hot.
So what comes with that?
Hot.
Flies.
Flies.
Ring a bell?
No.
The difference a day makes. All right, so our last little, petty discrepancy. It wasn't petty. Nothing we get into is petty. It may be small. Do you want to introduce?
No.
What happened?
Mm-mm.
Okay. So for the most part, you can turn that off. The only times we get into it, or most of the time, it's about domestic stuff, which we've talked to y'all about before. And long-term relationship stuff, when it's a healthy relationship, ain't no infidelity, ain't no cheating. It be little stuff that adds up over time that we've been doing a great job in calibrating our approach to cleaning and stuff like that. But stuff still comes up.
Yeah.
So if y'all not from Houston, if you've never been in Houston during the spring, going into the summertime, for whatever reason, thousands of flies a day. Right? We got all type of apparatuses outside to try to prevent the flies. They find their way in here. And mind you, this coming from somebody that never used to harm a fly, right? She got me in here building up my karma for the next life cycle, killing 100 flies a day. But it is what it is. I've reconciled with it. But for the most part, I'm the one who kills the flies. And I'm a savage. I'm a man. I'm in a space with my masculine energy with certain things that are glaring and blaring in her mind and in her heart. I don't even notice them, right? Like genuinely, I've trained myself to be able to ignore things like that. So we got huge windows, and our windows in the bedroom are huge as well. And for whatever reason, I don't know why flies come in the house do all this work to get in the house just to go to the window to try to get out. But that's another
Right.
conversation.
They want to act stuck.
Exactly. So for whatever reason, they end up at the window upstairs in our bedroom, and she done got me a fly swatter because we don't want to use too much of the chemical stuff. So I've been on my Beastmaster stuff, killing everything moving, right? Spraying the block. For whatever reason, a couple days went by, and she told me the first day, she was like, baby, I don't like all the flies on the window because I kill them, but I'm doing other stuff, clients moving and shaking, and sometimes I forget because we don't really go to the bedroom to the nighttime. So she told me 3 days in a row, baby, can you get the flies? First day, I was like, baby, I'm tired. I'll get it tomorrow. Okay. Second day, we go upstairs, about to have our downtime. Same thing. I'll get it tomorrow, baby. I'm sorry. I'm tired. Okay. Third day come. About to get in the bed, have our little date night. We was about to watch our show, right? It's about to watch Survivor or something like that, right?
Survivor.
I'm tired. I can't wait. I don't want to. And fellas, talk to me, right? When y'all have a full day and then you get in the bed and your wife asks you to go do one more thing, it could feel excruciating. And it was one of those moments. And again, I ain't hit her with an apology. I didn't preface it with why I should be not allowed, but why she should give me grace to do it the next day. I just like, I don't feel like it right now, baby, right? And I didn't say it abruptly from my perspective, right? I wasn't trying to just give her SHIT. It was just, I didn't think it was going to be that big of a deal. But when I said that, I forgot what your response was, and I don't remember what my response was to it, but she like, I'll get it, right? I'm like, oh, shit. She storms downstairs. She comes back upstairs trying to act like she's okay. But, of course, fellas, we pick up on it. And I'm like, you okay? I don't know, right? And she started processing. She didn't really get into it. You didn't really get into it in a moment. But after you cleaned the flies, you went downstairs. You ain't tell me we're not having date night. You ain't tell me I don't feel like watching this or I'm mad. You just went downstairs, and I text you like 5 minutes later, like, are you coming up? And you was like, I need to sit with it. So when we finally got into it, it was an underarching and overarching conversation based on a previous conversation about what makes you feel sexy, what makes you feel supple, what just makes you feel peaceful in the house. And it had a lot to do with the feng shui and the order outside of the house just being clean. It's just little things that I need tutelage to understand that they bother you in a way that I can't even fathom sometimes. And this was one of those situations. You want to pick it up from here?
Yeah. So I guess for me, what I'm recognizing, because if we're real, this is a even deeper conversation that first started from you asking me if I was sexually attracted to you.
Okay.
Right. And
I was going to say that for a different episode, but let's get it.
Yeah. So, and then that went into me really having to dissect what the real question was.
And it wasn't if you sexually attracted. I was asking, do you ever, like, in your own heart of hearts, want sex outside of me wanting it or initiating or creating a space for it? It was that.
Yeah. And so I had to really dig deep and find out if I did. Like, you have some women who are extremely sexual and they lead first with that. And like I've said before, there's a lot of innocence around my sexuality, and there's also a lot of fear. And so one thing that I know is, since I'm already working overtime to find the power and the fearlessness to initiate, because that's something that you've asked for. And then on top of that,
atmosphere was added. Because I knew about the innocence. I knew about, what was the other one?
The
fear. But the atmosphere conversation had come up for the first time.
The atmosphere. And that looks like, so recently I've gained about 40 pounds.
You looking good though, Slim.
Thank you, baby. So I've gained about 40 pounds. None of my clothes fit. None of my sexy clothes fit. Like, when I bought them, it was sexy. Now I'm hanging out.
It's still sexy, but.
And so when that conversation happened, it was more of like, well, let me find out why I'm not feeling so sexual. Is it just that I'm not a sexual person? Or are there things that is adding to me not feeling sexual? And so we recognize I gained weight. On top of that, I am still working on the initiation part, which is using my voice, which is working through fear. But then it's also the tidiness of the house. And something that's happened recently is I started feeling really weird, like my hands never feel clean. And I was like, I'm washing my hands all day long.
And thoroughly each time.
Each time.
To the point you brought up, am I getting OCD?
Right. Yeah, it's like catching me off guard because I've never felt this before. My hands just always feel dirty.
And the house not dirty.
No, we have a beautiful home. And then when I take a shower, I'll also recognize I see everything now. And it's like, if there's just a little hair coming out the drain, I will notice that I'm just in one corner of the shower because it also feels like I have to wash myself at least a few times before I actually feel clean. So the extra nuance that I brought up in that conversation was the tidiness of the house. And I think in that conversation about the flies, it wasn't, it was the principle, but then it was also what my body was going through, just knowing that the flies were still there. So I was processing a lot. And I think for you, it was just confusing because it's like, are we just talking about flies?
Right.
It's the nuance of, it's the principle of me having to ask over and over again. It's the urgency of what I would see as urgency is how quickly you move to something I ask. And then on top of that, it's like the working through of the body. So I don't know if I just answered your question, but I think it brought a little bit more.
Nah, you took it in the direction it was supposed to go. And in the moment with the flies, and I will double back to the initial conversation, I'm glad you brought that up because I forgot to connect that. Like in the moment, I could understand being perturbed, annoyed, whatever you want to call it. But like I said in that conversation and the next day, it was the intensity and the abruptness of how it like a whole different Candyss showed up.
Yeah.
And in the moment, it was difficult for me to connect the dot because on my end, and this is the conversation we really want to get into, is nuance and detail. And sometimes how men tend to struggle with being able to relay nuance in a way that doesn't shut women down. And a lot of times women feeling like nuance and additional details that may veer away from the core issue are men deflecting or manipulating or trying to just prove themselves right. And a lot of times it's necessary information for us to process as well. We'll get deeper into that. So in that moment with the flies initially, and I apologize to you for this the next day, I didn't connect the dot of we just had the urgency conversation, right? How that makes you feel, supple and sexy and in a certain space. And I didn't connect the dot of the feng shui, the atmosphere, right? And we about to lay down and, have our time and watch the show. But again, this is something that I was blind to until you brought it. I wouldn't even think about the flies. It's dark. I can't see them. And then you brought it up. So in that moment, it was difficult for me to be able to connect that dot. And going back to the sexual conversation, I remember when I brought it up, it was a difficult thing to bring up. And I feel like it's something that I've spoken to a lot of men, either in counseling or just in passing, where at a certain point we feel like we are the hunters, and rightfully so. Like that's a space we comfortable in. We've been doing it our whole lives. At a certain point, we want to be the hunted by a woman, especially if it's an exclusive long-term relationship. So it just came out of nowhere that morning. We was both cleaning up, and I was just thinking about, damn, when is the last time, she not even initiated, but just when the last time I felt like viscerally wanted by my wife. And I'm proud of myself. I'm proud of us for you making me feel safe to bring these things up. I wasn't mad. I was vulnerable, but I wasn't afraid, and I brought it up and we got into it. So you had laid it all out, and by the time we got to the flies, it was a moment where I had a blind spot to the fact that this directly correlated to everything you had just brought up. Your particular set of nuances and details I was oblivious to until you sat on that bed and started to explain it to me. And one thing at a time is like, okay, I do see that. And I will offer an apology for this, that, and the third. But as we was going into it, the energy was already so heightened that in certain ways, you weren't able to pick up on the fact that I was acknowledging certain pieces and apologizing for certain pieces, but I still had blind spots that my series of questions and the things I also added to the conversation, like me being tired, me being the only one pretty much killing the flies, which I had no problem with. And I asked you in that moment, like, baby, can you do it this time? And understandably so. Now I get it. But that felt like insult to injury in that moment. Like, bro, you just said for the past 3 days you're gonna do this. I just told you about how this affects my energy, and now you putting the ball back in my court. And to me, it's like it wasn't that deep enough for me to understand why that happened the way it did. But as you explained it to me, so that turned into that night conversation. At a certain point, I said, let's just table it, right? You went into the bedroom downstairs. I went outside. I drove. We didn't get into it or nothing like that. But it was still a lot to process. Yeah. Came back to it the next day. I'm sitting right here. You were sitting right over here. And again, now I had more time to think, more time to process. New information is coming up. New data is arising. New questions is rising for me.
Yeah.
And when we was in the moment, it was so obvious and straightforward for you, but I needed some help to get to the obviousness of it and how I missed the mark in multiple different ways, which frustrated you more. We was able, and I'm about to hand it back over to you. We was able to get through all that, and by the end of it, you was able to say, I see now in this moment why you needed these questions answered, why you brought up these other things. It wasn't deflection. It was your genuine process in getting to the same place I already was when I got mad about the flies initially. You want to say anything in response?
Yeah, I think so. I'm the type of person, and I used to always say this when I was much younger. When I'm having a conversation, first of all, it's already difficult for me to use my words and speak up for myself. But when I'm there, I'm there. So it's the initial part where I'm struggling to just acknowledge how I feel and not keep the peace. But once I'm there, it's like all gloves are off. And so I've always said, when I finally get enough strength to acknowledge and voice how something has made me feel, and then you act like you don't know what I'm talking about, that is when I can promise you the whole energy of the conversation is going to change, because I have been in relationships where they were simply acting like they didn't know what I was talking about. And they knew exactly what they did. They knew exactly what the offense was. So I'm not well versed with men who are actually processing what took place, as opposed to trying to deflect from what took place so they don't have to take accountability. And so we don't have conversations like that as a society of different processing styles. And so at some point in the conversation, I'm recognizing, oh, we're processing differently.
And not to cut your wisdom, I want to highlight, because we talk about communicative processing styles a lot. You took it to the core of the mental processing and what's going on in ways we can't see inside each other's mind. You got it.
Yeah. So while we're sitting there having the conversation, I'm recognizing, well, we've done all of this work to figure out proper ways to communicate with one another. We have learned what trigger words are, what apology language is, and we're learning this in real time as situations come up, and we're taking notes on what didn't work and what does work. So we know the proper way to communicate, but the nuances, when a person brings up so many different nuances, to me, it feels like deflecting. It feels like avoiding accountability. But at some point in the conversation, I recognize this is what it takes for you to actually hear me.
Yeah.
This is what it takes for us to actually process.
Not all the time, but in certain moments, yeah.
Yeah, it's just a natural processing of the brain trying to gain clarity on, but why did this affect you so deeply? And it's happening to me and within me. So in my mind, I'm laying it out black and white.
Yeah.
But in your mind, it's actually not black and white. And so at the end of the conversation, it just dawned on me, if we can have patience and understanding that we have to teach each other the proper way to communicate, then we also have to teach each other the proper way to have patience for our processing styles. What is so clear, blaring, and black and white, and something that I'm able to get within a certain time frame or understand within a certain time frame doesn't mean that the next person is. And the questions that I ask to process may not come to you
Right.
until the next day.
Right, facts.
So while I'm sitting downstairs by myself, I'm getting to all the processing points. But sometimes until I bring up a point to you, it leads you down a rabbit hole of a whole nother series of
Whole new world,
questions.
yeah.
And we have to be able to have the patience to hold space for that to happen in the conversation, because my thing was just getting frustrated. Why is that relevant to this? What does that have to do with this?
anything, yeah.
Why are you bringing this up? Why are you bringing up analogies comparing this to that? Whereas if I just had patience to understand, you're trying to understand. And sometimes that can feel invalidating. And sometimes that can feel like a person is deflecting so they don't have to take accountability. And that can make you even more agitated, frustrated, and less patient. Whereas if I just create distance and recognize this is his processing style, it's not personal to me. If I also create distance and remember this is my husband, he loves me, he means the best, I can give him room to ask questions. I can give myself room to really crucify within me the frustration of the fact that you have to ask questions. Is really pointing out my lack of compassion in a moment. So I think that was really big to me, because I'm recognizing we think differently.
Yeah.
Men and women think differently about everything. So it's kind of weird to say, well, you need to process and think about situations the exact way that I do, and you need to communicate the exact way that I do. I don't even know what your processing looks like. I don't know what it feels like. I don't know the types of questions you have to go through your mind to get to a certain outcome or accountability. And I have to leave room for you to do that.
So a few things to what you just said, and I think that frames it, that particular statement or question. What do this got to do with anything, right? Which I know a lot of women can probably relate to having said to their men. We men don't usually have enough unmitigated gall to say something like that to y'all in a conversation. We just a lot of times trying to hold on for dear life and trying to understand. So normally it's the men hearing that from the woman, and what I pick up on that, there's a certain level of you playing in my face energy when that question comes up, based on what you kind of just mentioned. You've had a history, and most women could probably attest to this. Y'all have histories of men who were playing in y'all face.
Yeah.
And I'm not even just talking about infidelity. It could have been a relationship where ain't no cheating happened, but when these moments of accountability rose up, he did manipulate.
Yep.
He did deflect. He did try to exonerate. So once you get with the man who has the ability to not do those things, there is some semblance of a learning curve, because most of y'all have had no experience with a man who's been able to do that. Y'all haven't gotten a chance to really work that muscle of compassionately listening, of giving that leeway, of giving that grace. And a lot of that comes also down to the fact that, and we said this after the conversation, being that when facts come up, and matter of fact, let me say this first. There are no facts in disagreeable moments, especially when you talk about with your partner, because again, what I may see in my reality based on how I process presents a whole different level of stipulations, of questions, it's a whole different world, right? So I can't really expect that, or vice versa, that my facts match your facts. Even if it's the exact same situation that happened to both of us, we're going to see it in different ways. And a lot of times couples will go into the right versus wrong war based on, well, this is the fact. How can you deny this? It may have happened different in your reality as opposed to mine, right? So that's first and foremost. But when men are calculating and we bringing up information and data and facts, women have to not only process the data and facts, y'all also got to process how you feel about it in real time at the same time, which is damn near double work. You got to be a dual citizen, and a lot of times y'all presenting what happened, this how I feel about it, which opens up for a lot of us the male mind, and all these like new tabs open up, right? Because to a large degree, we don't want to disappoint y'all. We don't want to make y'all feel away. So even on the bed, even though on the bed I got it, it was levels of it I wasn't getting, that I needed those extra questions and conversation to come up. And I'm not realizing until that moment, as I introduce a new topic, as I introduce a new piece of data and information, you have to do the double work of trying to hear me out and then feeling even more. So it's like we both going up this hill of understanding. For the most part, I'm really just carrying a bag of logic, of linear data. I still feel certain things, of course, but with y'all emotional bandwidth, as we going up this hill, I got one bag. You got two heavy bags of trying to calculate the data as well as how you feel about the data being presented. On top of it, feeling unfair for me to even introduce some of the things I'm introducing. So it gave me a lot more grace. It gave me a lot more understanding and empathy in that moment, what y'all have to process and why there tends to be a shutdown, which to us feels unfair. Like, why am I not allowed to introduce these things and be told I'm just trying to be right or I'm trying to exonerate myself? I'm trying to really figure out where you coming from. But previous to that moment, I couldn't see the extra bags you got to carry in that process of hearing my information.
Yeah. And it's also the aspect of carrying the feeling and the emotion and then trying to carry the logic and then giving the explanation and then recognizing that your explanation actually isn't good enough. And so now you have to find different ways to explain it, different ways to express it, depending on your trigger language. You have to find different words to use so it doesn't avoid so it doesn't trigger your partner to make them shut down. And so it's just so many gymnastics. And I'm not saying that men don't have to do this, because men absolutely have to do this as well. But because women have more of a bandwidth with emotion, we have more of an opportunity to get frustrated.
Absolutely.
Because at some point it's like, blink if everything is okay. Like, how are you not understanding what I'm saying? And the truth is, they aren't understanding what we're saying. And so if the intention is to actually communicate, then it is my job to not shut down. I have to continue with the conversation until we reach a space to where it's like, oh, that's what you're saying. You have to have two willing partners that are willing to just stay in the conversation. And that's one thing I really applaud us on, is we'll take a break, but we don't give up on the conversation, and we'll say it however many different types of ways, however many times necessary, until it actually lands in the heart and in the spirit of the other person.
And that's intimacy, that's provision. And I tell a lot of my couples all the time, attempt one may not work, and then you got to reconfigure. You got to come with a whole new game plan of how to say the exact same thing.
Yeah.
That way may not work. It may be days and multiple attempts. It's been times where attempt 10 cracked the code for me to understand where you was coming from, and you was willing to go through every one of those lanes to eventually get there. That's also part of the trust that we've built up in our own ability to express, and how every time we express, we get better at expressing, at communicating, at holy language, figuring out the language to avoid. So we got a high level of confidence in the fact that sometimes in those moments of frustration, it's like, damn, way 3 and 4 ain't work. I know I'm gonna crack this code though. I know and I got trust in your ability to eventually pick up on what I'm saying and vice versa. That a lot of couples may not have done that individual internal work to get to those stages, and then have not shared that in collaboration to have that trust and that confidence. So that's another factor that we may not have to deal with, that certain couples do, because they can't see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
They can't see, oh, this is eventually going to work. Ain't no confidence built up. It's not enough communicative stain just yet. And that comes also down to the fact that most men, especially in the brown and black community, we've gone lifetimes, we've gone decades, we've gone most of our life not saying anything to nobody. You know what I'm saying? And then we get with a woman who grabs our heart, which is rare for us. So if we get into one of those relationships, we have a deep fear of messing that up. Right? So off top, there's a certain layer of fear, because usually it's a woman leaving a man. Men, for the most part, if we love a woman and vice versa, we not leaving. We gonna try to do anything to make it work and to, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
A lot of times that's what we've seen, that's what we've experienced. So we come into these things. Sometimes, you know, I'm 43 years old. I'll be 44 this year. I had to think about it. I'll be 44 this year. Our relationship is 5 years plus at this point.
Yeah.
That's been my time frame to develop and practice this skill set. So I'm still very much, even though we're doing a great job, I'm still very much so fresh to the block
Same.
of just communicating, but also being able to learn womanese. And not the one that the red pills be saying.
Yeah.
they you know, womanese is, you know, the things that they say that women do or say that doesn't make sense. When I say womanese, I mean EASE at the end, right? Knowing how to put you at ease and make you feel safe in some of these tough moments. I'm learning that on the fly. So if we get into a moment and it's like, what do that got to do with anything? Or you deflecting, or this isn't the core issue and I may not be willing or compassionate enough to go there with you. I'm girded, but that can make a lot of other men shut down also in those moments. And he may bust his whole clip in that conversation. He may go through 10 attempts and none of it worked, but he may not have the emotional fortitude to do it the next time.
Right.
And that's when you see that incremental, gradual, over time retreating in, and now he's not saying nothing. And now things is flying by the wayside because essentially the woman has kind of killed his ability, his trust within himself and within her to be as vulnerable as she's asking him to be.
Yeah, I agree. It has to be compassion.
Yeah.
And what happens is a lot of times in arguments or disagreements with our partner is there's a winner and there's a loser. There's a villain and there's a saint. And there's right and there's wrong. Whereas if we approach these disagreements with a lot more compassion, a lot more patience, and the intention to understand, that we understand that both of our realities matter.
Are valid.
I can validate your perspective. I can validate my own perspective. And we still actually don't even have to see eye to eye.
No.
Every disagreement doesn't have to be agreed on at the end. Like there doesn't have to always end in a you were right, I was wrong, or even a solution. And if we approach disagreements in this way where we validate your experience and understand that sometimes it's going to differ, our subconscious views the world completely different. What is blue to you may not be blue to me. And that's science. That's not just, oh, I see things differently. A lot of these people actually do see things much different. And I think if we get into these conversations, we can have compassion for the fact that men are still learning how to speak up for themselves emotionally. They're still learning how to communicate about their emotions. And if women are going to have the conversations that say, I can only have a man that's healed, one, that ain't never gonna happen, because anything not growing is dead. People will be healing wounds for the rest of their lives. And nature is a reflection of our continual process to die and be reborn, to learn, to evolve. And if we're going to require men to have the emotional endurance and the emotional balance that we have to not only nurture the environment, but give them safe spaces to miss the mark. And give them safe spaces to try, and give them safe spaces to inquire, and give them safe spaces to feel as if they actually made the mark, and to, with compassion, show them, but this is why I need something different, or this is why what you feel may be valid, but you may be seeing things from a distorted perception. And essentially that's what's happening. What we feel is valid, but there are ample opportunities for us to see things from distorted perceptions. And if we don't at least go into conversations acknowledging there is room to acknowledge both of us are seeing things from a distorted perception, then we'll just rest on right and wrong. And if you resting on that, nobody's going to win.
And it's not even really a distorted perception. It's different, right? We looked up. Well, first, before I say that, Layla Africa, African Holistic Health, covers everything having to do with the body. It's the Body Bible, but he also gets into psychology, some relationship stuff. I don't remember what chapter it was, but he talked about how women process information as opposed to men. And in disagreeable moments, women go straight to how they feel about it. Men go straight to how they think about it. So off top, as soon as the topic is introduced, we going in two different directions, right?
Right.
That we got to eventually find a way to kind of detour and wrap back around to the same thing. That's a process in and of itself, even if it's simple.
Yeah.
We also looked up the fact that we so different, we dream different.
Yeah.
You and of course we on this fast, so our dream state is wide open. And I came downstairs and wifey is talking to me about this crazy dream that she had. And I'm always interested in what you got to say. So I wasn't checking out by saying this, but at a certain point, we like 15 minutes into your explanation. I'm like, yo, you dreamed that long? And you was like, yeah, I guess I do. I'm like, you dream with that much detail? And I'm pretty good in my astral realm. It ain't nothing close to what she laid out. It was like 7, 8 different stories. I'm like, bro. So in the moment, I'm like, let me look this up. Let me see if this is a thing. Women tend to dream longer. Your REM, rapid eye movement phases, when you do dream, are longer. They're more intense and they're more detailed. And y'all tend to remember more of y'all dreams. So even when we go into the subconscious mind, it's different.
Yeah,
right?
it's still more of an advancement.
Exactly. So with that being said, that's holding safe space for men to make the mistake, if you even want to use the word mistake, coupled with not having the the reflectory judgment of him making a mistake based on the men who weren't making mistakes. They was literally trying to play in your face type, right? And one of the things I said in that conversation, which kind of got, I guess, convoluted for you, I'm like, look at our history of communication overall. And then I asked you over the past year and a half, because I don't know if you used always, but something came up where some of our effort and progress kind of was getting smudged out. Based on the difficulty we was having in that moment. And I my logical linear question thing came up, and it was like, in the past year and a half, what grade would you give us on how well we've handled these uncomfortable moments? And you thought about it, you was like, probably like a B plus, maybe an A. And we was able to go down the timeline of, yes, this is a moment where it's tough right now. Yes, it's correlated to conversations that we have had semblances of. And some of that stuff correlates, but this is still a different moment. And this doesn't dictate the fact that we just not getting it or we not making progress. Sometimes it's difficult to see that. So that's a question that may not have come up in your heart. That's a question that I could have asked another woman. Here we go. Why we got to go here? Why I got to give a grade? But it was important in that moment for me to use my linear leadership to remind us, yo, we've been doing a great job.
Right.
This is just a particular moment where it's difficult again.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah, it can be very easy and unconscious behavior to acknowledge when one thing is going wrong and then string together all the other past things that have been going wrong, or the past ways somebody has missed the mark or didn't show up the best. And now you're attaching that to what's happening now, whereas you really are disregarding all of the progress y'all have made. And so I recognize in that moment, I was disregarding a lot of the progress that we had made. And so sometimes it's best to, or not sometimes, it's best to stick to the topic at hand. And if there has to be a nuance where you bring up a past situation to provide more clarity on why you are so upset about this situation, there is a way to do that without you always do this or you never do this and just stringing along all of those past incidents, because now it feels like you're throwing it in a person's face and they are never going to respond to that the way that you think they are, because now their brain is going to go to all of the times that they did do it, all of the times that they did listen to what you said and they fixed their behavior. So now they are only going to want validation for what they did do. You mean to tell me that I didn't take out the trash last week or the week before? You mean to tell me that I've missed the mark all of these times, that I never made any changes, that I never got better, that I never improved? When you string together moments and it becomes a always or a never, that person now can't even give you the validation. They can't even give you the accountability. They can't even give you the understanding that you're looking for, because now you've just triggered them to protect and defend themselves. And then you're going to say that they are deflecting, or then you're going to say that they're making the conversation about them. And that's another reason why trigger language is very important, and also not using absolute negatives, because it will always derail the conversation in an unnecessary way.
And what you're talking about is what I refer to as continuity. And I always use the example. So continuity in a film, somebody gets shot in one scene. Continuity says that in the next scenes, they should still be struggling with that shoulder. If you go straight from getting shot and now you just walk, we're not going to believe the scene. We're not going to believe the actor, right? So with the mind carries continuity in a lot of different ways, and we want to avoid continuity. The continuity we just talked about was you may have been stringing together a bunch of moments that did correlate. So I completely understand why they did get strung together. I can see that.
Because it can be value to what you bring up. It also just matters how you do it.
Absolutely. So let's call that, for lack of a better term, the negative accountability. I don't know if I want to use the word accusatory, because it was valid stuff that you was bringing up, but the negative continuity. Mm-hmm. In that moment when you was giving me what you was giving me on the bed about the flies and how it correlated to everything else, my merit continuity, my positivity, look what I've done though, continuity popped up. And this is a prime example of how the male mind works. Even though what you was bringing up was valid and it was easy to see that, like I said, the intensity and abruptness to which you went to that degree of being upset and annoyed, as that's happening and you feeling the feels, my tabs is popping up like, but we just had a whole list based on that conversation of things that make you feel comfortable in the house, things that I may have neglected, the shower handle. We had about 4 or 5 thing with the car. And once we had that conversation, I got on top of everything and we knocked that whole list off.
Yes.
Right? So when you brought it up, my merit or positive continuity was like, okay, I understand it's flies, but I do a lot of shit in general. And then we just checked off 5 major things from this list that I got right on top of once I understood this, which didn't exonerate me from not honoring my word for those 3 days. But it was confusing that it went to that degree.
Right.
When we just got the past 2 weeks of all these different things that I did listen to you on. And in my mind, as the tab is popping up, it's like grace often comes up for me and a lot of men. Like, damn, why does it have to go to this level for just these flies? And, you know, I just did all of this. So that's kind of a prime example. Like, in the moment, y'all are carrying the bag of data, but mostly feeling first until we start to respond with our data. For the masculine mind, it's almost like the old folks say. When they used to go to the movies, they called it the picture show. It's like a picture show opens up in our mind where all these instances, experiences, examples of, I guess, the overall sentiment. Why you going this hard on me? Mm-hmm. I'm a good man. I do all these different things for you. And yes, you may have a legitimate gripe, but to this degree, you know what I'm saying? In that moment, the whole picture show erupted in my mind. And I got all this ancillary information that I feel the need to get across, but not realizing in that moment, this is too much. And that brings up the conversation of nuance and timing of introducing nuance.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I wanted to add one thing before you went. So while the aspect is coming up for you of all of the different things that you have been doing, and then the asking for grace, or the kind of expecting, like, I've fixed all the things you've asked me to fix, but now this one thing is happening. Can I get grace based on the things that I have been doing that you've asked, which is valid. And then my response typically is, well, me asking over and over again is the grace. It's me having patience, is me having understanding. And then that last time will kind of turn the knob for me, because now we're working from 2 completely different wounds. Yours is not being acknowledged and being made the villain, even when you have tried and really reached the mark. And then mine was the programmed narrative of suffering. I got to do everything by myself. And it's like, okay, I'll just clean it. I'll just clean it myself. And as opposed to asking, which is already difficult, me asking for help, which is already difficult. It's like, I've already asked twice. Don't worry about it. I got it. I'll just do it myself. I'm going to do it with attitude, but I'll just do it myself. So we have 2 wounded people trying to get each other to understand why I need this. And so if you don't understand what the wounds are, then I don't have the ability to communicate. I've always had to do everything myself. And when I had to clean the
Exactly.
flies, that
That's what
version
came
of
back.
me
Yeah.
that was just so frustrated that I had to do everything myself, that's who was at the forefront. That's why I couldn't have even more grace for my husband not understanding why this was so important for me.
And my bad. You got something?
The last part that I was going to say is also that's why she couldn't understand your nuances.
Yeah.
Because that version that had always had to do everything by herself, she didn't have no patience, no understanding, no compassion, and no more grace. She was done. Like the whole thing was cut off. So now where you're advocating for, I really didn't mean any harm. I really didn't know this would bother you in this way. I really wasn't connecting the dots that you would have. If that version of me was not present, then I would have had the same compassion that I had the same 2 days. So essentially you got two wounded and confusing versions of us that were at the surface trying to fight it out and come to a resolution. And they just didn't have the tools or the capacity.
And I want to give that version of you credit because, or I guess just acknowledgement for why she may exist in that space in that way. She's not around when I'm doing all the merit stuff. It's musical chairs with these different parts of our character, our personality, and our spirit. So she doesn't get the luxury of seeing me do all this extra stuff. She comes up when that feeling to make sure this isn't happening again. She's like, all right, it's time for me to go do my job. She wasn't here for the 5 things that we just checked off the list. It was time for her to do her job. So I want to acknowledge that because she had validity in coming to the surface in that moment. Also, based on the fact that with the continuity I had, the merit, or I've done all this continuity, sometimes as men, we miss the mark on acknowledging isolated effort. So it don't matter that I just did these 5 things. You ain't do this. And you said you was going to do this. This doesn't afford you the opportunity to just say, well, I did these last 5. Again, I'm going to bring up LeBron James when, the past 10 years, he don't got to play defense. He's so great. Nah, we still a team, bro. I need you to go ahead and lock in on your man or we going to lose this game. Yeah. And in that moment or moments like that, sometimes as men, I just speak for myself. Sometimes I miss the mark to understand, bro, this is an isolated scenario. Don't pair all this together because then you're going to offer yourself grace that based on how you approach life and your integrity, you shouldn't even afford yourself. The past 3 days, you didn't do this. It don't matter how great a job you did the past 5 days, right? In this moment, you dropped the ball and you got to be able to acknowledge that. And then one of the things that came up was I wasn't really fighting for exoneration. Like pretty early on, as you started to explain to me, I started to apologize. I started to see bits and pieces and percentages of the overall conversation, right? But it took a couple days for me to fully get there. But once we did fully get there, I realized what I was mostly fighting for or trying to get from you. And one of the nuances that came up was, yes, I understand why I pushed you to that degree, that abruptly, that intensely. I said maybe going forward, if a situation comes up like that again, to maybe give me a reminder, this is one of those times. This is one of those times that we just talked about where I don't feel the urgency from you. I can understand why. But this is one of those moments, you know what I'm saying? And all the nuances that come with that. And initially when I brought it up, that felt like extra work. That felt like, I got to remind you now too. Yeah. But in me asking for that request was low key, high key, to be able to, if I'm missing the mark, if I'm making that mistake, this is one of those times where I need a fail safe. I need a safe space to make the mistake. And you give me a mirror that, a quote as simple as this is one of those moments. I would have instantly probably in that moment understood this is deeper than flies, bro. Get up and just do this right now, no matter how tired you are. So I think that's part of it as well.
Yeah, I think that version of me that was like, I got to do everything myself. Yeah. That young version of me was the one that had a huge issue with you asking me for help in the moment. Because that version of me was like, I ain't doing nothing else.
I just got the flies.
Right. Like, I ain't doing nothing else. Don't ask me for Nathaniel. And so throughout the conversation, that was one of my blind spots because I was fighting that hard. I was just like, no. And then somehow, as we keep going, the conversations they come around to a solution for us. And I was able to actually understand why that is not a cop-out for disregarding or not taking accountability. And I have to train my mind to not feel like that's what's happening. That is a training that has to happen on my end. And I feel like a lot of women's end to not just rush to, oh, he not taking accountability. That is, it's a huge possibility that that's not the case. And so at some point you were able to ask me for that again. And I was soft enough to where I'm like, I can offer that. If I really want what I'm asking for, and I recognize that you may be having a blind moment, you're not saying, oh, don't bring that up to me. You're saying, actually bring it to me. And
help you.
These are the key words that I need you to say to me when I'm forgetting. Because if you say, babe, it's happening again, that's kind of like, okay, let me pause and really feel into what am I missing that she may feel like she's getting that I'm not. It took me a long time in that conversation just to be okay with that.
And it was coupled with, and that's another moment that another woman could take a completely different way. Of course, initially you did, but you came around. But I was already also offering, okay, I see this. I need to be better with this. And then my masculine fail-safe mind, making sure the contingency plan is there. I'm gonna do my best to do better with this. I'm gonna receive this information. If I do mess up though, that if I do, which did come across as, damn, this is another bag, this is more work. For me, this is my propensity to want to keep you safe and establishing a contingency plan should I miss the mark in a future moment. But it can easily be taken as, damn, this is another bag. He's still trying to get me to do his work. You know what I'm saying? And then the nuance timing aspect of things, being that y'all got the emotional bandwidth for the most part, more than most men. Men are not smarter. We are not more intellectual. I actually feel like y'all are better once y'all receive information at processing it. Y'all do that faster at a much wider clip. Y'all could do a lot of it at the same time once it's ingratiated into your spirit. With us, on the surface, we can calculate a lot of surface information at the same time pretty easily. It don't take much for us to be able to do that. So we got to understand as men, that may be easier for us, just like the emotional part of things is for y'all. And with that being said, yes, your nuance and your detail is still very much so important. But when you introduce that thing is also important.
Yeah.
Give your woman grace, understanding she may be drowning under the bag of feeling, trying to follow your data, past trauma and karma coming up that you may not even got nothing to do with.
Yeah.
Factor that in and understand, let me just focus on what we doing right now, but still honoring that maybe tomorrow we need to have the nuanced conversation. Maybe I need to structure my nuance and details and bullet point it out and make it plain as day, so I don't got to take her through the hoops of fire that sometimes y'all got to jump through in ways that we can't see. I got to make sure I honor the timing of the nuances I introduce, because it's a lot for y'all to be able to juggle.
Yeah, and I think it also would work too if we just start to, pause. If you recognize you don't have all the information or you're still gathering questions, just pause and give yourself time to reflect and give yourself time to process and ask yourself the questions and figure out how you feel and put yourself in other person's shoes. That can be a day, it can be multiple days, but just having the initiative to say, let's pause and really try to process this in a healthier way. And then the last part is, maybe if you're processing and the way that you process frustrates your partner, vocalize that you're processing and just say, babe, I'm processing right now. There is opportunity for you to take some of the things that I'm about to say the wrong way, but just follow me. You don't have to attach to anything I'm saying. You don't have to get emotionally involved. I'm still working through what I feel in the moment. So just follow me. I'm going to ask a series of questions and I'm just trying to gain clarity. And I think what happens is we've gotten to a place to where the ego and the hubris in us feels like as soon as you say something, I already got to come back.
Yeah.
As soon as you say something, I already got my thoughts aligned. As soon as you say something, I already know what the debative response should be. And so we have created an environment where both people have to be steady and fast on their P's and Q's, whereas that's actually not how conversation is supposed to happen. It should be slow, and people should be breathing, and they should be present. And you, just like Kanye was on that conversation with TMZ,
Yeah.
and they wanted to cut and go to a break. And Kanye said, no, give me time to answer the question. Let me feel into what I feel. Let me think about what I actually think without feeling that subconscious rush to answer the question immediately. And sometimes in conversation, we have to check our hubris and check our pride and our ego and not be so quick to respond. It's okay for you to say, you know what? I'm still processing how this makes me feel. I'm still trying to understand how we even got to this place. I'm still trying to understand why you feel that way. And I'm going to go through my natural processing in my brain, and I'm going to vocalize it. And I'm just going to ask that you follow me without demonizing me for not getting it instantly just because you get it instantly.
Yeah, honestly, each new point, each new nuance, each new detail should honestly have its own time frame to be thought about. And I know that sounds crazy, and I talk to my clients about this. I call it nibbling, as opposed to we'll introduce a gripe and we expect to scrape the whole buffet plate of everything involved in this conversation, all the nuances and details included. When we know a lot of this stuff, months, weeks, years sometimes for us to fully get the download in that attempt 15, finally crack the code. So with nibbling, you know, sometimes you introduce the gripe, y'all get through 10% of it before we need time to process. Y'all do y'all process and y'all come back maybe 2-3 days later and y'all are capable of taking 10% understanding to maybe 35%. And somebody get heated and we tape, and you just keep doing that, giving yourself space and time to honor each one of these nuances. Because if you do that, by the time you get to the resolution is more girded. It's more effective because y'all got all this extra data that y'all was able to infuse in the conversation that wouldn't have came up if you wasn't nibbling. That wouldn't have came up if you tried to scrape that whole buffet plate.
Yeah.
And that's what ends up sending people into the timeout out of exhaustion. It ain't an intentional timeout of, you know what, let me process. It's F you, I'm tired of talking about this, and y'all storm off y'all separate ways. Y'all usually don't even think about it after that. You have sex, and then a week later, y'all back in the vibe, and the same cycle is going to continue to project itself. So last thing I want to say too, the question, what this got to do with anything, can easily be reframed to, I need more help and understand what this has to do with the core issue.
I like that.
Two completely different vibrations, similar words, and that will give the man the openness. He will sense your trust in the process, your respect of how his mind is functioning. And low key, when we don't get stuff like that, it's almost like a role reversal where the woman is saying to us, your emotions don't count. How you see this, I don't care. Like, let's just stick to, this is my issue. That's another thing I saw in a lot of the comment section. All of this is our issue. It may be a gripe that came up in your heart, but as soon as you present it to me, it's ours. So it's not a matter of let's just stick to my side of it. You're going to say it and it's going to bring up my side. Yeah. We got to be able to do that dance together.
Yeah, I agree. That's a great point.
Yeah, I think that's good to go for now. We'll probably do a part 2 to this at some point, but yeah, I think we're good for right now. So what you got?
All right, y'all. Thank y'all for tuning in. Make sure you comment, like, subscribe, and share this podcast. You can purchase my book, Remember Who the F You Are. The links are below. Also, if you're interested in our Emotional Healing Mexico retreat, you can check that out as well.
June 27th to July 1st.
Yep. And then also we have a Texas Healing retreat.
September 25th to 28th.
Yep. You guys can sign up for that as well.
Accepting clients.
Yeah, one-on-one sessions. I don't know why I always forget to say that.
Accepting one-on-one clients as well as couples counseling. Just give us some time until this fast is over, right? If this comes out this week, we ain't ready for y'all just yet. My merch is coming. My music is out. Stream me on all platforms. Check out my videos on YouTube. And I think we good to go.
Yeah.
Thanks for y'all attention, y'all.
My nigga, everything is love, but that on anything I love. Yeah.
Peace, beloved.